If you've ever looked up how to roleplay or tips for making a character, a goal is one of the most commonly given pieces of advice. And if a goal works for you, that's great. But so many players make goals and never touch them again. And that got me thinking. If goals are often made and never touched on, are they really this Don Favre's blessing, a holy relic to be used by the elite roleplayers? Or are goals a little misleading? What really makes a good goal that pushes your role-playing up a notch, or one that you won't ever use again? Let's reimagine, demystify, and find some alternatives to goals. So after a couple days of thinking and looking back on games, I was left with one main thing. My favorite role-playing tool isn't a goal, though sometimes they do align with goals. It's a term I learned when I wrote my own comic. The point of no return. Like the name suggests, this is the point in a story where the character can't go back to who they once were. This moment will change the course of their journey forever, in one way or another. There are quite a few subtypes of these moments, and I'll touch more on those subtypes in a bit. But the beauty of these points of no return that I think a lot of goals lack is it's all about how your life changed, what shaped you, and the emotional impact it had. It's often more about how your character feels than about the world around it, and it's easier to relate to for many people who struggle even in their own life with finding a goal. It allows us to create characters who feel lost or forgotten in a world, all the way to characters who are extremely not damaged and very functional member of society. They can also be used to create hooks on why your adventure is going on a campaign your DM presented. That doesn't necessarily put the DM into pressure to create storyline that may be very far from what they had in mind, just to include your backstory. But remember, to make great stories that last in our minds for a long time, we need to take our ideas, push them, and keep pushing them multiple times. Where in-game, this will happen between interactions with other players in the DM. Before the game, we have to do it solo to create a character. But keep in mind that our first take, all alone solo, is hardly ever going to be the best one. So I've been learning this in art lately too. If we have an idea, we need to take it 3 levels farther. This is how we really take a flat story and turn it into something really dynamic and expressive and full of life, with things for us to roleplay off of. Just a small example to get the idea of this in your head before we continue. In this painting, I wanted my party to partake in a festival at the feast. To push that scene farther, I said, well, what happens when there's only one role left? Puff and Brunk are probably gonna arm wrestle for it. Okay, let's push it again. They quickly jump to their knees to arm wrestle, knocking the table and sending food flying. And continuing to push it, Azira jumps back startled, Jinx springs into action to catch the plates with his dexterity, and Alara tisms and doesn't understand why they don't just take the last roll for themselves. But oh no, we still aren't stopping. We're gonna push this one last time. The 3D in the background is going to be glaring at them for making the scene, where I, the waiter, have been shoved into by Azira, and I am now off balance with my plates of food I'm trying to deliver. This iteration of the drawing where you see it now is 10 million times better than the sketch I first made, with just the idea of the festival in mind. Now, this example controls many characters in a scene. Just like in roleplay within the game when each player is pushing farther off of each other. But I'm going to show you some examples of pushing things farther without using other people, just using different subtypes in just a little bit. Before that though, let's talk about conflict, and since we're the only player we can control, let's focus on internal conflict only. This is something that makes it really easy to create roleplay moments, because we're directly able to look at the thing our character is actively thinking about, struggling with, or excelling with. This is why points of no return work so well. This one question of how the point of no return affects your character going forward. And they're so good that they're hidden in almost every single movie ever. Like, you might think Jurassic Park movie is about dinosaurs, but it's actually about a character who goes through a crazy world to learn to respect kids and save his marriage because of it. To fight his inner conflict about kids that makes him feel so human, creating amazing interactions between the characters and making the movie so lovable instead of flat. So, I highly recommend trying to find an internal conflict when making a character. It's really helpful. And remember, character creation doesn't end when the campaign begins. You don't need a ton of stuff at the beginning of the campaign, but you should be looking for things that will shape your character going forward throughout the campaign too. Look for moments of no return that you want while playing. Let things arise and shape your character based on you and the other people's actions around you. Now let's get into some points of no return. Trauma is commonly used point of no return, whether it's a super edgy moment from your past where your whole family was murdered, bad parenting, or the loss of a loved one. But maybe those types of trauma don't really sound interesting to you. You could try something a little more fantasy-based, like being a part of a cult for a while. Or something a little less edgy, like fears. I've been in this D&D campaign for about 3 years now, I think. And I've been playing this character called Spore. They're very, very fey of a creature, a mushroom dryad bard, whose very essence is morbid, ominous positivity. Near the start of our campaign, Spore almost died quite a few times. Once lifted far in the air by a harpy and dropped, and once they were in a tower when the entire tower collapsed on them mid-combat. And they narrowly escaped death by using a dust of dryness that was loaded with water to create a bubble of water for them and the town's guards to land with, cushioning the fall. Now, I could take these moments and just say Spore has a fear of falling. Which, yeah, I did do. But we're gonna push that farther, pushing into the background of Spore, and the current feelings and emotions, and actions we can do to show it. Spore is wildly fey. Their people embody and embrace the acceptance of death, that no life exists without death, and new life is born from death. They feed on the decay of ones they once loved, and know that one day their children will feed on them. That being said, Spore fears death anyways. They welcome others into the moments of letting go and the cherished memories that live within decay. But they have this internal conflict that pushes them into desperately clinging to life. This beauty in conflict is really what feeds most of Spore's roleplay. Spore is a coward who embodies death, who embraces it, but they so desperately want to live. But you know we aren't done there yet. We need to push this farther. But our next push is somewhere between the boundaries of trauma and external. Spore is attached to their friends. They feel so connected to them, and really want to have moments with them. But their friends are adventurers by heart, and so Spore adventures still, despite their fear. Now, the shove really comes into play when we are in the heart of danger, that moment where life and death is on the line and we don't know which side we're gonna fall onto. Spore will fight their cowardice. They will struggle and push themselves and put their life in the line to protect their friends, to heal them, to buff them, to blind the monstrosities they face. Once again, creating internal conflict to roleplay, where family choices, the adventures you meet, or other people might give you an ultimatum or another point of no return. Other people don't always have to be the direct source of an external point of no return. You also have everything that would fall under an insurance claim, or in a more fantasy way, divine intervention, or a deal with the devil. This is why I think warlocks are just normally inherently better at roleplay, as they literally have a point of no return baked into their class. But you can still try to push these farther and create internal conflict to play off of them. Now, my final category here I'm going to cover is a little broad. I think the area covers a lot of ground, from the underdog story, a rebellion, or a simple aha moment that changes your character's life forever. This is my favorite way to roleplay, and the whole reason I started to even think about goals not being needed. I think the breaking point or aha moment is an amazing alternative to goals, or something to do after you've already achieved your goal. For example, I was journaling where I could take the plot of a character my party in my campaign had created a chaotic moment with. Now, this little guy is just an autognome named Karen. They desperately want to feel alive, to become living like every other species, and the players had convinced Karen that they are gods. So Karen is going to offer them a questline. To grant Karen's goals to become living, this is probably going to fail several times because the players aren't really gods and they are nowhere close to having a wish spell. But at some point, I'm going to. If you're from my party and listening, we have not yet completed the Karen questline, so I'm sorry, end the video here if you're from my party, and ask me about breaking points in DMs if you want. To buy just a little more time for my players to rush back to the mouse and click off this amazing painting I've been working on is actually part of me fleshing out my autistic obsession, the elemental planes. I'm trying to create continual content, currently focusing on the little city between the border of the fire and earth plane, the city of Enco, on the edge of the Ashen Waste and Infinity Mountains. And I mean, come on, do you hear how epic those fantasy names are? They deserve content for them. They deserve as much love as the Feywilds gets. So if you're interested at all in just other planes in D&D, check out my Patreon to find what I've been doing to flesh out these planes, like creating new races based on existing and old D&D monsters, NPCs, places, and this time around, a festival for the city. Link in description. Okay, I think they're gone this time. So I'm gonna let them actually talk to a god. Where you might assume I'm gonna have a god perform a wish, the plan isn't for a wish spell. The plan is to talk to Karen about how they're already living. That to live is to dream, to hope, to find a friend, to find purpose of their livelihood. That Karen is perfect the way they are. That they may not breathe, have blood, but they feel in every way. They're living. They are perfect. And this is Karen's aha moment. Where their goal ended here, the aha moment picks up and takes off. The players, assuming they take this questline, can now go into helping Karen in any way they see fit to find a dream or a new thing to do in life. Also, I just want to throw it out there that if you're a DM, don't pre-plan all your NPCs like this. I only prepared their goal because the party had already took interest in them. This is more like they set something up and now it's my turn to return on something that they started, before asking them once again to make a choice and decide what to do. But anyways, I hope this gives you ideas and gets you thinking and reimagining things and into a creative TTRPG mood. And if you're stuck around to this point, I'd love to hear about a point of no return that you've had or you would love to make. And have a wonderful day.